Jimmy Lee is an author, a scholar. I know you as Osage Native scholar is where I first kind of picked up on some of your work. Very good to meet you, brother. And thank you for coming on to the platform and just being willing to share.
Thank you. Hawe dahe kshe ke tashe dadas kahe da kshe. Here do ekipshe kombra zani wa we hui pi kombra. So I just wanted to say hello. My name is my government name is Jimmy Lee Beason II. My Wazhazhe name is Pa.hu.ska, meaning white hair. I'm also Seminole from my grandmother's side, who recently passed away. So I gotta give it a shout out to her memory and what she did for me. So I always try to recognize my Seminole side. Her name was Ina Miko, and I remember growing up listening to her speak fluent Seminole and talking to her friends on the phone and things like that, and those are some of the memories that I cherish. And I bring that up because a lot of my experiences guide my I suppose work when it comes to teaching at Haskell Indian Nations University. I've been teaching full time for about 5 years. And I used to go to Haskell. A lot of people in the country are usually pretty well aware of what Haskell is and what it means to Native people. But as far as like my work goes, a lot of the things that I've written, actually some of the contributions I've contributed to Last Real Indians a couple of times. I wrote some things about the Osage history of the oil and the Osage Reign of Terror. I've written about decolonization. I feel like all around as a writer, I always try to center our people and speak from a place of experience and things that I've observed, experienced growing up, and how that contributed to my sense of self. And then I take that and then I try to apply it to the way I teach. At Haskell, the student population is 100% Native. So there's going to be a lot of things that I discuss that are specific to the Native experience. I also try to emphasize, our history, and I just recently wrote a children's book. Kind of plug that for a minute, but Native Americans in history, and trying to write about these individuals through a Native lens, of course. So, but yeah, just mainly an all-around writer. I try to convey information in a way that's understandable and that people can relate to. So,
as you've heard just a little bit from Jimmy Lee Beason, who is at Haskell, and we all definitely know where Haskell's at. We love Haskell. We support the entire tribal college movement. When we're talking about decolonizing, this is something that, for instance, Jimmy Lee's grandmother and relatives who are on the phone talking Seminole or up here talking Lakota or Wazhazhe, or they don't really see the word decolonize and think of the things that those of us who were born after maybe 1978 think of, because there was a time when it was illegal to do what we do, to put our ancient civilizations, practices, protocols, ceremonies, this includes the arts, the dance, the songs, the symbols, to put them into practice. That book, brother, if you could just hold that up again, people can buy, Jimmy Lee's book right now, Native Americans in History. So go search for that, check it out. Like, we want to support indigenous artists, indigenous scholars, indigenous thinkers. Jimmy Lee is working with a lot of our young people to help them navigate, reformulate, deconstruct the concepts of the self, the ego, the soul. Speak on what your thoughts have been about identity and decolonization.
I think for me personally, the concept of decolonization began when I was in the 8th grade, and I always use this as an example. When I was in the 8th grade, that was the first time that I refused to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I remember being in the classroom and the teacher getting upset with me. And I didn't really know why they were upset, because I felt within my mind it was completely rational that I wasn't doing that. And I was led to that conclusion by my mother, who instilled in me a lot of pride in who I am. She encouraged me to read a lot. She always talked about the American Indian movement and how they got things done and really created a sense of pride amongst Native people in trying to reclaim that Native identity. So when I refused to stand up, and then this carried on through high school, every time the Pledge of Allegiance came along in the morning classrooms, I didn't stand up for it. And I always got, kind of chastised or whatever. But I stood my ground and was like, I'm not going to do this because of who I am and what that represents to us as a people. Representing genocide, the taking of land, bloodshed, all these things. But see, they didn't understand that. Those teachers didn't understand that. And so that kind of set the tone and carried me through, when I got to my 20s and when I was started going to Haskell. I already kind of had that within my mindset, of learning about those things, learning about the history of Native activism, and also learning about who my people are. So when I started teaching, I don't think you can, to me personally, as a Native professor, as a Native teacher, you can't separate what you're teaching from who you are as an individual. But everything that brought me to the point now, where I'm at now, was rooted in getting reconnected with that cultural identity. And not only that, what I think is very important is that spirituality. Ceremony is school. To me, ceremony is educational. Because when you listen to those elders and people who have been around, you're learning something. Since we're at a point now where we can discuss these issues more openly, and mainly because of the work our ancestors did or previous Native people have done to ensure that we could do that. So to me, I'm honoring them. And, when I go down to, when I go to Haskell and I see that cemetery with all those children there, that also motivates me to speak on these issues, because I feel like, they didn't get a chance to speak. They were told not to, and then they weren't able to go home. So I take that into consideration, and I think, I'm in a position where I could speak on these issues, so I'm going to do that, and sometimes that's in the classroom, or sometimes that's maybe on Instagram, and creating information out there just so people are aware. So we got, I think it's just more like looking deeper into those aspects and, how do we apply it to our own lives? And it's a tough journey, and it can be a tough path to follow. But I feel like one of the best accomplishments I have, done, I guess you could say, is just becoming a family man.
Yeah.
I think just being here with my children and my wife, and, just being, helping my mom out, and I think that's one of the things, is that just being there with your family and setting a good example, because all throughout our history, that's what was done to us, tearing our families apart, taking our children to force them to become something they're not. And I feel like, the best thing we can do as fathers and as dads is being able to, do what we can to make sure our families are together.
When you hear Jimmy Lee talk, he's talking about taking courage, these small acts of liberation, just thinking differently than what the colonial forces that be would have us think like. And like Sitting Bull says, we became something that's neither wolf nor dog. We still have those original power sources, the strengths that have sustained us for untold millennia are still who we are.
I just want to encourage people watching, especially the young Native relatives out there, try to build that foundation for yourself. And sometimes it can be tough, and sometimes it can be challenging, and it can take a while. But always understand that the core of our being is found, to me, within our culture and our spirituality. And I think that's something that we need to understand, and also to build within ourselves.
Thanks, Jimmy.